Hi everybody, this is JJ from Experiences with My Dog, and today we're going to be checking out the Lickimat from Hyperpet. So this is pretty interesting. It looks like a pretty simple item, but it's actually got a lot of different functionality. So with this little mat, you can do a lot of different things to enrich your dog's day. If you want to be able to cool your dog down during the summer, if you want to be able to break up a little bit boredom, if you're looking to be able to slow down their feeding, or you're looking to actually potentially even be able to calm them down, it's all achievable with this guy right here. So let's go ahead and find out a bit more about the Lickimat. So what is the Lickimat? Well, it's this guy right here. It's an 8-inch by 8-inch TPR non-toxic rubber mat. It's designed for your dog to essentially lick it and be able to go ahead and consume a wide variety of different types of items off of the mat. Now, the mat itself comes in 3 different variants. They're all the same exact size in terms of the dimensions. They're all that lightweight material, the TPR rubber, but they're different colors. So you have green, orange, and blue. And each one is a variant in terms of the actual textured material and the way that the actual spread would work on the mat itself. So you have the Soother edition, which we have right here. We then have, I'd say, a semi-enclosed version with the Buddy version, and then a fully enclosed version that we have with the Playdate. And I think the main difference you're going to have between all of them is what different types of spreads would work better within each one of these different types of mats. For the Soother, I think it would be really well suited toward different things like butters, different types of kind of cheeses, maybe different types of kind of canned dog food, maybe some crushed biscuits, things that essentially have a really easy ability to be spread. And I'd say are minimal in terms of the amount of water content that they have. If you move over to something like the Buddy version, where it's small squares, but there are openings between each one. It actually has the ability to have a little bit more, I'd say, build up in terms of the corners and the crevices. And so it works a little bit better if you want to extend out kind of a licking pattern if you're putting something down, like let's say crushed biscuits, or maybe canned dog food, or maybe your own pâtés that you're making from different types of treats or from different types of food. The last version, the Playdate version, is actually has fully self-contained squares. And I think that works really well if maybe you want to put things like, maybe like a type of broth or something along those lines, and then freeze it and then allow your dog to lick it. So all 3 of them, like I said, same dimensions. It just comes down to the different type of textural experiences and the different type of ways that you can spread across the mat. So now that you've got a clearer idea on the Lickimat itself, well, how did we utilize it? Well, we've utilized it in a couple of different ways. I'd say first and foremost, the one that we've probably used the most has been the Soother-based version, but we have also used the Buddy version. And it's got a lot of flexibility in terms of how you work with it. First and foremost, it's fully non-toxic, it's microwavable. It's also freezer friendly, and you can easily wash it just with a little bit of warm water and soap, and you're good to go. So it's really kind of easy way to be able to kind of try different things out there, give it to your dog, and especially with us having 3 different pups, we can kind of rotate between different types of offerings for the different types of pups depending on what we're looking for. So if we kind of break down the different type of usage scenarios in terms of what Hyperpet and Lickimat advocate, let's kind of go through a couple of these. I'd say the first one is going to probably be overall dental health or digestive health, and how they communicate that is that essentially is that the action of actually licking the mat itself when you have something on there is going to help to clean their tug and go ahead and remove different things like plaque and tartar buildup that might be present on there, and essentially help to kind of remove that bacteria that you might have. It also helps to activate saliva, which actually can help to contribute to better digestion. So maybe if you find that your dog is maybe having certain digestive problems, maybe you might give him a little bit of a Lickimat initially, help to create more saliva right before they eat, and then that might aid potentially in that. Now there's also studies that have shown that dogs, when they actually go through the action of licking, it helps to actually release cortisol in their body, and cortisol can actually help to kind of relax or calm a dog down. This is sometimes why you see certain dogs that might be a little bit more obsessive compulsive, sometimes go through kind of a licking fashion. It's part of a mechanism that they have to try to kind of calm themselves down. And so maybe if your dog has company over, maybe they're a little bit anxious, maybe they haven't had the chance to kind of play or run around. Or maybe you've got, loud noises, maybe, a block party going on, maybe thunderstorms, kind of severe weather, loud sounds that might be going on, construction, different things like that. You could also just go ahead and give this to your dog, and it might be a way of allowing them to focus, especially if they're food motivated or if they're treat motivated on something specifically, and maybe have that cortisol effect kick in a little bit. So the combination of kind of focusing them and maybe having something that helps to relax them a little bit more. So we actually tried out quite a number of different items on here. So we went through, I think initially, we tried out some Yum Butters, and the Yum Butters we spread across there, and they worked really, really well. The pups absolutely loved them. You just spread them out there and you allow them to kind of lick through it. Now, like always, any type of butters that you utilize, you want to be cautious in terms of not giving too much, and make sure that they have little to no sugar additive, because you don't want sugars to generally be part of what you're feeding your dog. But you could also do things like crushed fruit, like bananas, but keep in mind as well, some of those can actually have a little bit higher sugar levels as well. So like always, when you're giving different types of human related items, you want to treat in moderation, or definitely look up online or talk to your veterinarian. Some other options you have there as well is yogurt. We put in some Forager's actual cashew yogurt, which we went ahead and spread there across. And especially as we're getting into spring and summer, these might be nicer options in terms of helping to kind of cool your pet down. Maybe they're coming in from a walk or from, maybe sunbathing, and you can go ahead and give them something to kind of cool down. Also, the use of yogurt is a really solid item in terms of helping to supplement your dog's overall diet and helping to create better gut health. You also have some other options where if you've got different types of maybe canned foods that you want to pick up, you could also go ahead and spread some of the canned food. We picked up some Halo salmon and venison that we spread on there, and we also had the pups try that out. And really, I'd say in terms of both the different mats, they both worked pretty well. I'll say that, when you talk about the overall usability, like we talked a little bit earlier about, there tends to be that some work a little bit better than others in terms of the kind of the consistency. Take, for instance, when we tried the butters on, let's say, the Buddy version, it tends to kind of get a little bit more blocked into those little quadrants. It doesn't spread out as easily as you would have with, let's say, the Soother version, where I can really kind of spread that out throughout the entire mat. So I definitely would say that if you're looking for something like butters, go with the Soother-based version as opposed to the Buddy-based version, where I think the Buddy-based version shines a lot more when you're going with something that's a little bit thicker, a little bit kind of more pate-ish kind of in texture when you go about spreading those items out. Now, last but not least, we also tried out a couple of other variants in terms of, we did some Supa Coco, which is actually a salmon oil and coconut oil combined together. We let it get a little bit harder just so it has a little bit of kind of spreadable consistency, and that also worked well. And also from a cooling element, we actually also tried out some yogurt, the same yogurt that we fed them fresh. We also went ahead and put onto the Buddy version. We spread that out, we let it freeze in the freezer, and then we went ahead and gave those to the pups. And overall, they all worked well. They all cleaned up easily without any issues all the way around. So I definitely really enjoyed the experience of being able to give it to my dogs and be able to have them have something that they could be engaged with. So overall, definitely think that the experience with all three of the dogs, they all enjoyed using the Lickimats. They didn't seem like adverse or kind of weirded out to it. Sometimes you give a dog something new and different, and sometimes they can be a little bit like, what is that? And they might even not necessarily want to use it. But again, here, because you're really driving their motivation of probably getting something that they're really interested in from a food perspective or kind of like a treat perspective, there was definitely no issues in that regard. Now, one thing that I would probably say that you want to be conscientious of is that some of the dogs are going to respond to it differently in terms of how they approach licking it. The vast majority of them, whether it was Bowie, Modoc, or Ultron, they all licked it, but sometimes they approached it a little bit differently. Bowie sometimes, especially I'd say with certain things like the butters, she was actually trying to come almost fully kind of push open her mouth and kind of almost chew at it, and then be able to kind of pull a little bit more because, of course, it was kind of stuck in there. Now, that's great because you're getting them to exercise their jaw, work their kind of saliva, really doing, I think, what the mat is intended to. And I can tell you that I didn't find any type of areas where they were actually ripped or cracked, or essentially where certain parts had kind of been eaten away, even with the really, really little small pads that you have right here on the Soother version. They're all still there, even after using it, probably more than a dozen times. I haven't had any of that type of problem, so I wouldn't be concerned with it. And Ultron also mimicked a similar behavior a little bit, where he kind of tried to chew at it a bit, and there was no issues. Modoc was probably the most, where he really kind of forced his face all the way down in there and just was heavily licking it. And no problems in that regard. So it is just kind of something to keep in mind. At that same kind of perspective that when they're really pushing down and licking, they may also maybe potentially kind of flip it over, or maybe kind of have part of it get pushed up. Now, I generally found that depending on what you have in there, it's probably not going to be an issue. It's not going to stain anything. Even when I tested on the carpet, I didn't have anything get stained, because by the time that kind of occurred, it already was so minimal, or was still in there, that, you know, pretty much was able to flip it up and they were good to go. Some other dogs may get confused too. Ultron and Bowie were kind of smart enough that they could figure out to kind of how to push it back up, or kind of keep moving it around to flip it so that they could get back to the side to finish it. But I think with Modoc, he's a little bit slower sometimes in that regard. So it could be that maybe he gets confused or just kind of walks away because he's like, it's upside down and I don't know what to do. So it kind of really depends in that regard. They do state that, you know, kind of you could leave your dog unsupervised with this and not feel bad, because of course they would be having something to lick. I would never leave my dog unsupervised with this type of item, because while I think that they would probably stop after they licked it all, I still have the kind of the concern that potentially maybe they would want to chew this if left, just because they're trying to even get more out of it, you know, especially if there's a little bit of crevices built up in there. So I wouldn't recommend that you leave your pet with it, but of course, as always, that's up to you. And as always, we recommend when giving your dog any type of kind of, I'd say, item like this, supervision is always recommended. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk quickly about the cost. Overall, this is a very actually low cost item. You can get this on Amazon. You can get them on a couple of other online retailers, but I'm sure for a lot of you, probably going to be checking out Amazon. Overall, the base price is, I think, like $7 approximately, and does qualify for Prime shipping. You can get the 2-pack, which is what I got, which includes the Soother and the Buddy version, and that's going to be $13. So you save about $1 to get them both kind of together. Whether or not you think you want the Playdate version, which, like I said, is I think best suited towards maybe closer to kind of like liquids that you might want to do a little bit more freezing, I think that is actually a worthwhile investment, especially with spring and summer coming up. The fact that you could pretty much get almost all of them for less than $20, I think is a definitely steal, and I think every dog owner should probably have these. I see no reason why not to consider them, just for the benefits they can provide in terms of just kind of breaking up some boredom through the day, helping to kind of clean your dog's tongue, helping to be able to offer them different types of kind of treats, maybe slow down their feeders. The fact that it's flexible with different types of dogs in terms of their sizes, that I can work everything down from puppies, you know, all the way up to, I think, large breed dogs. You could utilize something like this. Now, they do also make a large version. The large version is going to cost you a bit more. I believe it's $13 for essentially one that's designed for a larger breed dog, which I think they recommend generally, I think, over 50 or 60 pounds. For reference, Modoc and Ultron are approximately 60 pounds, a little bit underneath that, and Bowie, she's a little bit underneath 50 pounds, and I felt comfortable with the sizing for all of them. So overall, let's go ahead and wrap things up. We've talked about all these different aspects, I think, behind the Lickimat, and I think unquestionably this is a worthwhile addition. If you're a dog owner that's looking for something to be able to engage with your dog, you know, and account for, you know, different aspects that happen throughout your day, whether it's, like I said, friends or family coming over, construction, you know, house parties, thunderstorms, fireworks, hot days, rainy days, whatever it might be. There's a lot of different kind of scenarios where sometimes you're in a situation where maybe you just want to be able to have something you can have your dog focus on for a little period of time, and maybe not necessarily always give them something like a bully or a chew, or maybe you're not necessarily focusing on organic chews. Maybe you've got things like Nyla bones or different types of plastic chews. I always advocate, you know, something organic that can at least provide nutrition and benefit. So I think here, this actually does that for your dog. They actually even get a little bit of physical activity, kind of moving their shoulder muscles, their kind of their body posturing, kind of getting in and out of licking the actual mat itself. Can help, like I said, with their tongue health and their overall breath, which I know for some dog owners can be a real big challenge, especially if they're being fed kibble, because you get a lot of buildup of that kibble on the inside. So really all the way around, I see no negatives with this product, and I would strongly recommend it, and you consider checking it out. So if you're interested in picking up a Lickimat, we'll leave description, we'll leave actually links for it in the description below. While you're down there, if you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as go ahead and hit the like button and leave us a comment. What do you think about the Lickimat, and what other products would you like to see it reviewed here on the Experiences with My Dog YouTube channel? As always, I thank you guys for checking out this video, and with that, don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to spay and neuter your dogs.